Hello, morning.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Sunday morning.
But it's okay because it's not a working day, so I can focus. If
You know,
on
Sundays, whether we,
uh
we
it,
whether we have a lot of audience is
so it's
another
okay
question also.
because it's like a working day. Right? I'm scared that we have to have like a lot of other things, right? So if I were to share
Right.
or share screen,
Dia straightforward je.
okay, I something like this. Can you see?
Yes. Nice.
Okay,
Oh
all
my
right.
goodness, that's a very old book. Itu zaman bila tu? Zaman undergrad.
No, by during
Just kidding.
my PhD, my supervisor made me audit 3 FFL classes.
Uh-huh.
And then she made me audit for the first year. The first semester, I got to audit 2 courses.
Yeah.
Second semester, 1 course. And then for the first year, I got to attend postgrad classes in University of Sydney every Friday.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
It's like
It's just an audit thing.
yep. And then the first semester I was taught by Suhud, Suhud on educational linguistics. Second semester we got uh, G. Martin and Peter White on media discourse, SFL and media discourse. But very challenging because a lot of new terms and terminology that we are used to traditional grammar and mm. Then I started my PhD when I was 40. So imagine life begins at 14 and you are learning SFL at the age of
Something very heavy. Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Nah, then you join the undergraduate you join the undergraduate kan and then you being like 40-year old and then the rest thank God lah there was one guy I think he's like early 30s he wanted to become a teacher he wanted to become a teacher so uh Scott I remember his name is Scott so at least I got a friend lah in the second semester good so like
Right.
first semester was an introduction to linguistics. So she talked about SFL and then all. And then second semester we start to do grammar and discourse. Um, one and then the third semester, second the highest course was like advanced grammar where we did all this analysis of text. And then that course, I mean that course was taught by I think you know Helen Keppel. Keppel is the one now in UNSW. She's into multimodality. Mm.
You're talking to someone who's totally out of the radar of
But it's a kind
SFL,
of yeah,
probably also the people behind it. So you could highlight it to all of us.
because like the thing is SFL now when the other one is the systemic functional grammar. There's another school of thought which is Cardiff in Cardiff. It was by Fawcett, you know. Um, then now it is being advocated by Fontaine, Lisa Fontaine. Um, so she's very active in SFG. I think UTM lecturers, they have that kind of like, cause they're not that really like a MOUT style, but you know, they got like a joint venture with Cardiff. So there was one, I think, PhD student last time. She managed to get like a 6-month attachment to Cardiff. It was a good thing, lah.
Wow. Okay. So maybe later I would just probably start with Dr. Afandi, why SFL?
And then like I told my supervisor that I'm giving a webinar and then she sent me one journal article like just to enrich my she asked me to extend my research for publication. Just imagine until now she's still like sends like a journal article related to my PhD. Mm.
Dr. Fandi, do
Yeah.
you mind checking your video because your video tu nampak you punya top So
So
maybe
because
you
I
could
use
ke
I use
belakang
I use my
phone.
no webcam.
Okay, so webcam tu dia boleh zoom ke so that zoom
No,
out.
because it got stuck on the screen of the PC.
I see. Is it an autofocus thing?
No,
Ada autofocus tak?
no, autofocus.
We can
Yep.
see your eyes.
No, no autofocus. Sorry, I'm not using my laptop because our Wi-Fi here something wrong. They removed the router a month ago. They haven't fixed it. So now I'm using a desktop and then I got to buy a webcam.
Right. Okay. So you are actually using your laptop with that
No,
camera on top of your
desktop. I got a
desktop.
desktop in my office. But this is an old desktop, no webcam. Okay,
So your webcam tu separated lah.
Yep, attach using USB cable.
You can ke belakangkan sikit the webcam so that it your whole face tu dah nampak kepala atas je tu. Yeah, so they could see. So macam nampak you punya dada upwards. Yeah.
I try to. This one okay.
This one okay. All right.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay, so we've got audience already, so and it's 10 o'clock. Do you want to start?
I think better just start. Yep. I think most of the audience will be your student, I guess.
Right.
Okay, I'll better start now. Okay, you can.
Okay, I'll do the. Right. Assalamualaikum everybody. Welcome to the research and publication sharings, applied linguistics sharings, guest lecture series, a public webinar. We made it open to everyone so that all of us could have a good listening pleasure on a heavy topic. I might want to say that because it's not something that I do not fancy at the beginning. Probably Dr. Afandi, our guest lecture today, will change my mind. Okay, so we have here, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Afandi, Muhammad Noor Afandi bin Ibrahim. He's completed his PhD. It was from Australia University of
Wollongong.
Wollongong, yes, and he did his PhD in SFL. Wow. He is a senior lecturer at UITM Malacca, and he's an active MAL member. For those of you who are not familiar, MAL is a Malaysian Association of Applied Linguistics, an association in Malaysia for applied linguists. He is an executive committee member since 2016. And in UITM, he is the resource person for academic writing courses for students of English for Professional Communication in UITM programs. He is interested in SFL research, wow, genre, ESP, English for Specific Purposes, and educational linguistics. So Dr. Fandi, without further delay, we welcome you to our audience today. Thank you, audience, dear audience, for joining us. Over to you, Dr. Fandi. And of course, do let us know why SFL when you did your PhD along the way. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay. I have to open my.
You okay?
Okay, now.
Sharing the slides. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So you could
okay, slideshow.
share the slide down there. Yeah, slideshow. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. Okay, first of all, I would like to thank Associate Professor Dr. Fiza Umar Ali for the kind gesture of like inviting me to like share my kind of research into systemic functional linguistics. So what I'm gonna like share with you today is like a bit what I learned in Australia about SFL. Okay, then the reason that one, that Dr. Tafida told me why. Because I just share with you a little bit why I got interested into SFL. Yep. Okay, this is like one of the kind of the main textbook that I use in my PhD research, and the textbook that I use in the undergraduate classes that I audited when I did my PhD. Okay, right. Oops, sorry. Now, okay, SFL is actually like it's a grammar. Okay, basically it's about grammar. Okay, and then it began with like a purpose for text analysis. Because Halliday in his book, he said that we need like a descriptive grammar and interpretive framework to say why we say something sensible, and then what useful things about any text spoken, be or spoken written in modern English. Then to me, SFL is like kind of very rich. Okay, I'll just show you a bit afterwards why it is very rich. Okay, SFL is all about meaning making resources. Okay, it offers you like grammatical resources for you to analyze text, okay, spoken or written, and then in order for us to make meaning. Okay, okay. When we talk about SFL, okay, there are three kind of what we call magic words, okay, or the big words I call it when I first started learning about SFL. It is actually these three magic words. Now, every time you want to do any SFL, okay, you will, anytime you read any article on SFL, people will talk about these three meta functions. Okay, ideational, interpersonal, and textual. All right, so these are the three magic words in SFL that you can't run away from. Okay, then in SFL, meanings are interpreted from these three meta functions. Okay, for meaning to really work, to really like to be for any text to be meaningful, they will be like kind of interpreted through these three meta functions. But in any analysis, okay, if you want to do any analysis, okay, it is okay for you to focus on one particular meta function if the text is quite, the number of text is a lot. But if you have one or two texts, it is better for you to analyze the text from this based on these three meta functions, so that you can get the richness of the text, of the meaning making. Okay, now for today, I will just like deal with the additional meta function, the one that my PhD research is all about. Yeah, so additional meta function is that how we encode our experience of the world. That is how we use it to our own experience to convey a picture of reality. So under additional meta function, there are two sub meta functions, which are experiential meta function, which is the transitivity system of English, and then the logical meta function, which is the relationships between clauses. Okay. So transitivity system is actually about kind of grammar, things like when the traditional grammar you got subject, verb, object. So transitivity looking into the same thing, but in SFL they have the list kind of more what we call more elaborated, more detailed, so that it has helped me to reduce my confusion when it comes to labeling a sentence, especially when it comes to passive construction. Okay, I'll show you it in a while. Now, when you look at traditional grammar, okay, we got this, we learned last time, when you want to write a sentence, you need a subject, and then the verb, the minimum, and then the object, and then you got indirect object, and then you got the extension. So in SFL, they kind of Michael Halliday kind of label it as like the subject will be the participant, and then from the participant they have a lot of what we call subcategories. You got actor, you got say, okay, you got go and stuff like that. So you need to really get a SFL textbook to really learn this. Yeah. That's why some people they are not into SFL because they say, oh, we are just like we have enough of the this SVO. Why we want to make it like more difficult by like a participant? We got like a behavior, sayer, actor. Okay, I'll just show you in a while. Okay, and then the verb. Okay, the verb. As a general term in SFL, we call it process, and under the process, we got material process, we got behavioral process, we got attributive process to just differentiate the levels of verbs in English. And the object becomes goal, but the goal you can have range, you can have beneficiary and the recipient and all. So this is how SFL differentiate what like traditional grammar might have confused us to a certain extent. Okay, so if you look at in the traditional grammar, like Michael arrived, subject, and then the action verb arrive. But in SFL, the first layer, the first level, okay, the first layer of the level is Michael is a participant, arrive process, and then you go to the second level, you define Michael as Michael is the actor, while the verb is material because arrive is a doing. It's a process of doing. And then, okay, another one we have like Felix ate at noon. Now, in traditional grammar, we tend to say Felix is subject and then its action verb extension, the prepositional phrase shows time. Okay, in SFL, you got participant just now, you got process, you got circumstance or circumstance. So Felix the actor, so the verb is material because it's doing and the circumstance is the extent at which time. Okay, now we look at the subject verb object. Okay, like traditional grammar look into subject as action verb, subject, and then caught action verb, the cricket ball as the object. But in SFL, we look at actor, process, again doing the goal, because the goal of the actor performing the action is to catch the cricket ball. Now, okay, this is I just like to show it. Okay, it's because Dr. Afiza said why SFL. So I'm just like giving you. Now, this is the another one. It's like the old English. We say Harriet gave John a book. So you got Harriet like subject, verb, gave is action verb. John is indirect object. A book is a direct object. But what SFL has labeled this into like John is the beneficiary because John is the one that received the book, but the goal of the action is actually the book. Okay, right? So when in a way to show how it look like again, Harriet gave a book to John. You can see goal is the book. John is the beneficiary, the recipient of the goal. Okay, so this is like how SFL to me has managed to kind of make things slightly clearer when it comes to describing certain grammatical rules. Okay, so we look at active sentence now. The floods have damaged many properties. So the same like before, actor, process, and then goal. Right now, when we change into passive, now traditional English, for example, we look at this is passive. Many properties have been damaged by the flood. So I think in traditional English, we tend to say by the flood is the by agent. In the passive just now, by the flood is the subject. Now, many properties take the subject position in the sentence. So sometimes it somewhat confuses our students when we want to explain the active versus passive sentence. So in SFL, the labeling of each kind of what I call position, not position, the role just now remain the same. You just bring the goal to the front, the process material maintained in the middle of the sentence, and the actor goes to the end position. So this somehow helps to reduce confusion among students when it comes to explaining to them about passive sentence. Okay, so one confusion that has kind of helped me in teaching my student about passive sentences, because otherwise when we look at traditional grammar, I mean, the student will ask you now why that many properties become the subject of the sentence. Okay, why by the flood is now like become the agent, just now the flood become like the flood was like the subject before. So in SFL, it's to put it that way, you just rearrange the labeling. Okay, so the same thing when you have okay, this is just like another active sentence. So when we turn this into a passive sentence, okay, how are we going to explain to the student, right? So because if we look at the old traditional, we said that here is a subject, give is the verb, right? Action verb. Some young people is indirect object, and then for advice is direct object. So SFL put it as actor, process, beneficiary, and range. So when we switch it into passive, and then the beneficiary comes first, the process still there, and then the range and actor still labeled the same. So it helps the student like kind of understanding where we should position the actor, where we should position the range, where we should position the beneficiary in a passive construction. So this is one of the reasons why I kind of like got interested in learning SFL and taking SFL for my PhD. Okay, actually, I started to got to know about SFL when I did my master's in UPM, and I did critical discourse analysis. Norman Fairclough included about a bit of SFL in his language analysis. He introduced Halliday's SFL grammatical items in his analysis. So from there on, I still remember in 2002, I started to ask myself uh, what SFL was. So I started with some reading, okay? And then when I got my PhD scholarship in 2010, then I realized, oh, why not give it a shot? And then I was awarded a scholarship to go to Australia because of I wanted to do SFL. My dean said, okay, you go to Australia and do SFL and learn from the people there. Yeah, honestly, went there and I was asked to audit undergraduate classes. Okay, 3 undergraduate classes learning about SFL, and I got to buy the textbook. I got to read the textbook. I got to do all the assignments like the undergraduate classes. But it helped me a lot in learning SFL. You need to read, and then you need to get a teacher to help you to explain, because somehow or other, if you look at the terms in SFL, you might give up at one point of the journey. Okay, you need to have passion in doing that. Okay, so another thing is the issue of when we talk about intransitive action verb in traditional grammar. Okay, they say the woman laughed. Okay, in traditional grammar, you say, oh, the woman is the subject. Laugh is the verb, which is intransitive. It doesn't require an object. But SFL kind of change, label it as the woman is the behavior. Okay, she's an actor, but then another layer of labeling is behavior, because she is the one that behaves that way. So the process is called behavioral. Now, another confused sentence, we might come across this sometimes. You say, Jim watched the sunset. Now, if we follow the traditional grammar, then you say Jim is a subject, watch is the action verb. Is the sunset of an object, right? So because we told our student, okay, watch is an action verb. So we watch kind of benefit the action of watching performed by Jim. Actually, the one that benefit is Jim. So SFL level is that Jim is the behavior because he is the one that performed the action of watching the range. The thing that he's watching is the sunset. So this is how SFL has I told just now, kind of reduce my confusion in explaining certain grammatical items. Okay. And then all these like non-action verbs, okay, like knows, likes, hears, and then you say, oh, this verb needs action. This, is it like you said, Mary likes ice cream, okay? Holly hears the school bell. Like when you say Holly here, does Holly really like perform 100% action verb? And then Harry wants that shirt. Does Harry really want that kind of physically wanted that shirt. So how do we explain that? Okay, so what SFL has, so just now we learned about actor, we learned about behavior. Okay, now let's look at how SFL define those subjects here. Okay, so they are the sensor. Okay, instead of putting there as a subject as an actor, just now we got actor, behavior, now they are the sensor. So knows, still a verb, process, but it's a mental process. Which part of mental process is the cognition? Because she knows something, and the answer is a phenomenon. Okay, all right. And then like Mary likes ice cream. Okay, because Mary doesn't have to perform eating the ice cream to show her that she likes the ice cream all the time, right? So you just like to give the idea that Mary likes ice cream. So Mary is the one that has this like it affects Mary that she has like the idea of liking ice cream. And then like Holly, she's a sensor, she hears perception, the school bell. Okay, because you want to say that here is like a physical, like sort of physical action to explain to the student. It's not that the student really go to near to the bell like just now when Dr. Afiza told me to adjust my camera. You know, I physically went to the webcam and to say that the webcam has no zooming thing. So this is like what we call the sense, the verb becomes like a perception. Okay, and the third one is, okay, uh, this is like Henry wants the shirt. So Henry doesn't have sometimes won't do like 100% like action to show that he likes the shirt or what. So it just to show his mental inclination to the phenomenon that liking the that t-shirt. Okay, so this is how like the sensitivity of SFL helps kind of detail more on regrouping those subject, word, and object based on the traditional grammar. Okay, now I only discussed this you just now those three material, behavior. Sorry, those two, material and behavioral. I haven't touch on this verbal, existential, and relational. So verbal, like to do something like say, claim, and then existential, something like there is too much, using a lot of be verbs there. But and then another type of verb under or type of process under SFL is the relational. This is like he is a teacher, okay, which is a relational attributive. And then when you have the house is on a hill is an identifying relational process. So if we were to explain to our student, we said, oh, he is a teacher, is a be verb. Okay. The house is on the hill is on the be verb. So how do you want to like kind of make it like to kind of differentiate that he is a teacher to the house is on the hill? But I would not touch because otherwise we cannot finish it. It's going to be a lot. Okay. Now, so what can transitivity analysis do for us in our analysis actually? Okay. Um, so transitive patterns are causal realization of contextual choices. Okay. People write when people write, it's not that people simply write. People write because of the context they are writing. So the choices of transitivity patterns that you have in your writing indicate okay the choices that you have. Okay, some might use existential a lot. Okay, I think when you look at literature, once upon a time, you have the circumstance come first. So the circumstance literature, maybe like short story, the genre is in SFL can be identified having circumstance coming first. Once upon a time, there was, there lived, you know, the use of a lot of existential. And then it also that people, right, they will use different type of processor. And then maybe when you look into instruction, they will use a lot of what we call material process. Okay, when you write about the press conference media explaining something, okay, people tend to use a lot of the relational attributive and relational identifying. So this shows that there's always a choice in language, and that choice shows the different types of text, and then why the text, any particular text is produced in such a way. Okay, by analyzing sensitivity enough, system in SFL, you can see the way different texts are produced actually. Okay, but it is actually a lot because you have to go every single clause, right? Now, the next one, okay, my favorite actually, the one that I built really, really detailed. Okay, I live with it, I dream with it, I have nightmares with it throughout my journey is the logical metafunction. Okay, this is actually talking about what goes around between two different clauses. Okay, two different clauses. And then under logical metafunction, there are two systems that we have to look into. The taxi system, okay, that's why I put quotation mark there, not the taxi, the cab. And then the logical semantic, which is the relationship between two clauses. The taxis is the dependency between two clauses. Okay, the dependency between two clauses is like traditional English when you have independent clause and with one independent clause, or independent clause with one dependent clause. So that is the taxis in SFL. Okay, the interdependency system. The logical semantic is the relationship between the clause, like when you say, I love tennis, but second clause, but my wife hates it. So that but indicates the logical semantic relation between those two clauses. And we said, oh, that's to show contrast. Okay, when you said, I have to come early, independent because I have, you wet me now. So that because indicate the cause and effect. What is the cause you come because why you come early? Because I have the wet me now. But the interdependency there, I have to come early is independent clause because I have a wet me now is a dependent clause. So I analyzed that. I analyzed that in essays written by students. I look at the interdependency between clauses and the relationship between clauses. Yeah. Okay. So just now I mentioned the parathesis and hypothesis. So the parathesis means two independent clauses joined together. Hypothesis when you have one independent joined with dependent, another dependent, or another dependent. So in traditional grammar, parathesis refers to coordination. You use conjunction, you use coordinators. And then hypothesis refers to subordination when you use subordinator like after, before. Sometimes you can use the non-finite, like we have to work hard in order to survive. So that is the finite. Non-finite because there's no tenses there. In order to survive, there's no tenses there, no time tenses, so we call it non-finite. When you say we have to work hard so we can survive, then there's a finite because we can survive. You have modality there, we can survive. Okay, so is okay. So parathetic, we call it equal status, and then the hypothesis is of the dependent clauses. Okay, this is how the type of interdependency and taxis looks in SFL. So this is the expansion. Okay, expansion is actually a statement. Projection here in terms of you use verbal or you use sayer or you think. You said, he said, I'm tired. So this is projection because you have the word said there, right? This is, he said that he was tired. Okay, so this is all about what we call direct speech. Okay, this is the direct speech. Okay, this is when you turn into indirect speech. Okay, expansion, we talk about all the statements here, the statements and then the question, the imperative is all, no, imperative would come under projection, sorry. So the taxis is, he said, independent clause. I am tired is another independent clause. D1, he rose and actually then he spoke. These are one independent clause. He and conjunction, he spoke, another independent clause. So that's why it's a parataxic. This one is hypotaxic because he said, actually, comma, he was tired. Oh, sorry, he said it. So that it, he was tired. So he was tired cannot stand on its own. So this is independent clause. So that's why it becomes hypotaxic. Now, he spoke independent clause after he had risen. After risen is the dependent clause. So that's why they become hypotaxic. So we call this expansion clause. This is projection clause. Because this expands the first clause. This is projected by the first clause. Okay, so this is how the relationship looks like. Yeah, he rose and then he spoke. So the sequence is one alternate two. So we call it paratactic interdependency because both are independent clauses. So I think in traditional English, we call this compound sentence. Okay, right. Now, this is the complex sentence in traditional English. He spoke after he had risen. So the be clause here, so we have a little bit mathematics here, okay? All right. The one that you actually have to calculate the number of clauses and then you got to identify the clause manually. Okay. Then be here is a finite clause because he had risen. There's a tense there, past perfect. Okay. And the interdependency between them is B is a hypothetical expanding clause to A. So when it is expanding, because this is to give time, to show time, you use X because it is enhancement. Okay, there are three types of expanding relations in SFL, which I will show later. Okay, we got okay, elaborate. Okay, I'll show you later. Yeah. Okay, this is another example. Okay, so this is what we call clause nexus. When you have another interdependency within another clause. So from the above statement, we can conclude this become the alpha clause that our nation rate of organ donation are low. This is a beta clause because that our nation cannot stand on its own. Then that our nation now is combined with more organ donation campaigns should be organized. Therefore, so now in the second nexus, our nation rate of organ donation are low become the first become one paratactic connected to the second clause within the nexus. Therefore, more organ donation campaigns should be organized, which can stand on its own because more organ donation campaigns should be organized on its own. It has become the paratactic too. So and then it is connected by therefore, and then this is show enhancement to show purpose, the reason why we need to have organ donation. Okay, it's a bit complicated here.
Dr. Fandi, what is times two? What does
Uh,
times two mean?
No, times here is actually to show the relationship. I show you afterward. They got plus, equal, and times. Okay. Right.
Dear audience, let's persevere together. It looks like mathematics to
Yes.
me, but
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
I want to do this.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
So
Fandi.
yeah. So you look at how the relationship just now. So A alternate B, and then B now become paratactic to B2 just now. So consisting of three clauses. You know what? The interesting part of looking at these clauses, sometimes our students write in a very oral life. Then you see in one sentence there are multi-clausal. So one way we can teach them to reduce this by using abstraction, by using nominalization and all. Okay, because sometimes we tend to tell our students to, okay, spell out what you want to mention in your essay, in your thesis statement. Then for the each thesis, when you look at their thesis statement, sometimes you can have 4 clauses altogether. And then they are become choppy, they become like oral like instead of a written discourse. This is like how actually like the clausal, the taxis and the logical semantic helps a lot. Yeah. So I mentioned just now, the B clause is dependent semantically because however after that it becomes a paratactic because it's connected with those the second clause just now. Okay, in English, okay, under Halliday, okay, there are 54 categories of logical semantic relation. Okay, right. We call this relation between clauses logico-semantic relation, and there are 54 categories. Okay, this is what Dr. Afiza asked just now. Okay, so the first clause, okay, the second clause extend the primary clause either by elaboration or extension or enhancing. So what does elaboration mean? So elaborating clause, okay, elaboration means that you expose, you give more information, you give example, or you clarify. The second clause exposes or exemplify or clarify. When the second clause exposes, give more information, give examples, or give clarification, so we call it elaboration, indicated by equal here, Dr. Siza. Okay. Now, if the second clause extending, will give it with its extension, give addition just now, and, okay, and or but, okay, so the relationship is indicated by plus. Okay. Remember just now I said he rose and then he spoke, right? So the relationship was 1 plus 2. Okay. Now, when it is enhancement, which is enhancing clause complex, this is a lot. We talk about cause, causal condition, condition, manner, spatial, temporal, okay, sequence and all, right just now. So we indicate by at, to give reason, to give purpose. So if the second clause giving reason, giving purpose, showing time relationship, manner relationship, spatial relationship, we call that enhancing clause complex. So the relationship is indicated by X. Now, that was the difference. Equal here means to give more information. Okay, example. Okay, this one giving additional information. Okay, and this one giving the reason. So that is X. So certain genre, when you write argumentative essay, enhancement will be the what we call the dominant logico-semantic relation. But in scientific discourse, okay, scientific report normally will be the elaboration because they have to elaborate. Okay, if you find any article on scientific and then you analyze it, you can see a lot of elaboration because they will extend, which means that the experiment, which means so they will. So this logical semantics actually kind of give you, when you do the calculation, you quantify it, it leads to the text structure. And then when you look at how many students use it, it actually it gives you the qualitative what we call qualitative quality of the writing. Okay, how a good argumentative essay would have how many enhancement logico-semantic relation. So that's why actually what I did, I compared low-graded essay, which student did not perform well in the argumentative essay, high-graded student in those obtain A and A minus in their argumentative essay, and those middle-graded who got B and B plus. So I calculated the texts and I calculated the logico-semantic mathematically. Then based on the number, it actually correlates with the quality. The quantity here correlates with the quality of the writing. So that in what we call, we can actually teach our students that when you want to write a thesis statement, do not have too many clauses. One clause is enough, but we use a lot of nominalization. Then your essay will be brief. Because in spoken, yes, we do a lot of explaining. So you got a lot, sorry, in spoken right now, you do a lot of projection, and then you do a lot of clauses coming one after another. And then if you want to analyze spoken, you can analyze spoken like press conference spoken text compared to another academic text, academic spoken discourse. Okay, how many like clauses are there? Okay, which logical semantic relationships are dominant in one text to the other, something like that. Okay, only thing that to do the calculation, it really takes time. Yeah. Okay, so this is the clause complex just now, expansion. Okay, Dr. Fiza, this is elaborating. That's odd. Then we use a semicolon. I don't understand. Parataxis because two independent clauses. And then which is it gives like elaborate what it's odd because I don't understand it. And then that's odd, which is good. So that's odd is the independent clause, which is good is dependent. So that's why it becomes hypotaxis. And then this is that's odd, but I don't understand it. This is extending or extension because it gives additional information. Now, beside being odd, it's unusual. Beside being odd is a hypotactic. This is a paratactic. Sorry, this is independent. So there's a hypotactic relation. Then that's odd. So I don't like it. Give the reason, enhancement. Since it's odd, dependent, I don't like it. So since here indicate a hypotactic relation. So they are of the enhancement logical semantic relation. Okay, and Dr. Fiza, all together of these five, from projection, expansion, from ideal locution to enhancing, there are 54 categories altogether. Okay, but not all 54 categories can be found in any single text. Most of the time, like my case, for the argumentative essay, I only discovered 35 categories. Okay, all right. Okay, so just now the Fiza plus equal and X for expansion. For projection is indicated by for locution, which is direct speech, indicated by double quotation mark here. By the indirect speech, she thought that was odd, is indicated by single quotation mark here. When we want to show the relationship. Okay, and I mean the rest of the audience. Right. So this is again just want to show you that from the above statement, we can conclude. Now, why this is a single quotation mark? Conclude here is not an action verb. It's a something that we say. It's like logically we say, I want to conclude, right? It's like a saying, but it is in the locution, okay? Not the verbal, because it is in direct speech. That's why the relationship here is indicated by a single quotation mark. When you say, I feel, I claim, okay? The minister claimed that. The minister says that, okay? Something like that. So that is locution. But when you use direct speech, direct quotation, okay? She claimed, comma, double quotation mark, that's going to be a locution. There we use the double. But that won't be not so much in, I think, written discourse, okay? Unless it is in what we call literature, okay? Okay, maybe like Alice in Wonderland, Alice said something, blah, 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 okay, with a quotation mark. So that is how the logical semantic relation, sometimes when you do the analysis, it helps you like kind of share what I call, give you which logical semantic relations are dominant in a particular text in comparison to other text types, yeah? And then this is again to show the enhancement, okay? The enhancement of it. Okay, so this is how we explain it in writing. Okay, so okay, clause A is hypothetically projected by clause beta to ideal projection. And then clause B then is a primary clause number 1, paratactically expand clause number 2, which the logical semantic relation is enhancing paratactic because they are under enhancement. Cause condition, okay, the subtype is cause, the enhancement type is cause condition, giving reason why we need to have organ donation campaign. Finite because there's a tense there, okay? We need to organize finite, and then the relation is just to show the relationship. Okay, their relationship. All right. So up to now, okay, I can, I hope everybody can digest it. Okay, now, so this is again, when we do analysis of texts and logical semantic relation, so we see we can see actually choices of text and logical semantic relation and any text genre or discourse, because certain choices over others may shape the structure of the text or the genre. And then particularly when you want to what I call, you want to looking at the same setting, but the discourse will be like spoken and written. Maybe spoken academic discourse, written academic discourse. Okay, and then we talk about professional versus academic discourse and other types of discourses as well. So it helps, but honestly, Dr. Fiza, my supervisor told me that a lot of people also told me not many people really going into texting because of and logical because of the complexity of it, and then because of that, this type has become like a, if you do it, it's like you picking up dead horse meat. That's what everybody told me when I told them this is what I did. I wanted to do last time. Then they look at me, wow, okay, you're picking up dead horse meat. I say, but I like it because in the sense that of course we face this a lot in our teaching. Like me, UITM, we teach a lot of proficiency English, and we always have problem of how to help our students. So in a way, this kind of have helped me, teaching them explicitly about the use of conjunction, and then the use of nominalization, abstraction. We talk about grammatical metaphor. Okay, even though I don't explain that to them what grammatical metaphor is, I just teach them so at least they know. Okay, how to use it. Yeah. Now, however, if you just analyze that using the transitivity and what we call logical meta function, it won't be like a strong analysis. Now, so the best way is to combine that analysis with genre analysis. Okay, so in SFL, the key principle of genre analysis is that language as the realization of context of situation in context of culture. Okay, so that language, if language kind of situates the situation based on the culture. At the same time, culture kind of influences the situation and the situation influences the language. Okay, so that is how SFL looks at. And then, as again I mentioned just now, language as a meaning potential, because you can make meaning through language. By SFL, you can use the choices that you wanted, the different type of sensitivity you wanted, the different type of logical meta function that you wanted. And in SFL, when we talk about language, the three meta functions actually they work together in order to make meaning. Okay, but however, when you want to do any analysis, you can just take one particular level of analysis, but you have to do it in detail. If you want to do the three level of analysis, you may can have take a few texts, you do the different level analysis, and you compare the result of the three texts based on those three level analysis. So there are choices for you actually. Okay, so when you start doing SFL and genre, you need to, this is like the most important text, the most important figure you must have in your paper or your research. Show that okay, text is situated, text is like shaped by situation, and the situation is shaped by the culture. And then we look at the three aspects of function in relation to text in context. This is the favorite one. Okay, this is so you look at text, under text, we look at those just now, ideational, interpersonal, and textual. And then the text of situation, the feel. Is it spoken or okay? Is it spoken or is it no, sorry, feel will be what type of, is it like a professional setting, non-professional setting, formal or informal? Now, tenor is the participant. Okay, who is the writer, who is the reader, who is the listener, who is the speaker, to show the relationship between the speaker. So tenor normally relates a lot to the interpersonal. Feel relates a lot to ideational. And then mode is it written, is it spoken, how is it written? So it's more into the textual. And this will be kind of defined, or sorry, will be like influenced by the context of culture. Okay, see, the culture influences situation, the situation influences the text, the way that you write influences the situation that you are in, and then it will influence the culture that we are in. Okay, so these are what we call the tenets of SFL. So every time you want to do analysis, you must have this figure. And you have to explain a bit about this figure in relation to your study. You have to explain what is your intentional context there, what is your interpersonal in your text, what is the textual of your text, okay, what is the feel of your text, what is the tenor of your text, what is the mode of your text, what is the context of culture. So my context structure was the academic writing community. Okay, my mode was academic writing. It's a written argumentative essay. The tenor is student writing for the examiner. The field is academic writing. Then I analyzed the bidirectional, looking into the logical metafunction just now. So I do not touch a lot on interpersonal textual, but I did bit on interpersonal because the use of modality, the mood, can, should, and then the textual, I talk about a bit of new and given thing. Okay, and a bit of cohesion there. Okay, you have to relate it a bit, but you don't have to discuss because you just need to focus on which part of the function you need to do. Now, so when we talk about genre, okay, Martin comes in with very good what we call books on genre and SFL. So the moment we want to analyze any piece of genre and then you want to use SFL by Martin, based on Halliday, then you need to combine Halliday and Martin. Now, for your information, historically, Halliday was like the founder of SFL. His students, actually, his best two students are Christian Matthiesen and Jim Martin. Okay, now Matthias Halliday unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but I managed to have a photo with him, but I forgot where I put the photo. When I presented in the Congress, Scientific Council Congress in Canada, Vancouver, Canada in 2010. So Halliday was there, managed to take photo with him and his late wife, Rukaya Hassan. Okay, and then Matthiesen now is in Hong Kong, while Martin is in Sydney. But there was a tension a bit because suddenly Martin decided to put, if you read SFL, register and genre would be, Martin looked at two different planes. We call it planes, while Halliday look at genre, and Halliday and Christian Matthiesen look at register and genre at one particular plane. So there was a tension there. So whoever is doing registered genre theory, you have to go through the tension that you have to choose which stand you want to do. Okay.
Can I interject?
Yep.
Fanny? So in your case, you use SFL plus something
SFL and genre analysis. Yep.
by
Martin.
Martin. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So you're not doing so it's specifically genre analysis and not register analysis.
No.
Yeah, because some scholars say that those two are similar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So maybe you could point it out later how that is contextualized in your study.
Okay. Because I decided to take register and register in genre like as a one. That's why, but then decided to call it as a genre. But if you're looking into register per se, right, then you have to really like focus your analysis on the register theory. So that is how we go about it. Okay. But there's also like a term, I forgot the studies that people like looking at one piece of discourse from both register and genre. So at the end, what they found out actually, I don't know, because some people would say that because I follow my supervisor, and my supervisor was Rukaya Hassan supervisee, and then okay, so actually like we are more into Halliday's school of thought instead of Martin's school of thought. But when it comes to genre analysis, Martin would give what I call detail. Martin developed that. So I tried to kind of merge both. So I took a bit of a Halliday, so I kind of put in Martin's genre analysis, okay? But they are still under SFL, not of different school of thought, yeah. So it's not wrong. My supervisor said, I thought that I was wrong at that time, you know, like almost day of the journey, and I got to revamp. My supervisor said no, then I got to justify in my what we call methodological chapter. Okay, so this is what Martin comes from, just okay. So you can see that the Martin and Halliday just now, so when we talk, this is what Martin has shown that how language as we see as a what we call semiotic in any semiotic environment. Okay, so you look at the discourse semantic, okay, and then the register and the genre there. So Martin see register and genre as two different things. Okay, they call it planes. Okay, two different ways. Yeah. Okay, right. So the text analysis, normally when we look into this, your lexical grammar, we decide your discourse semantic that give me into discourse, and then you look into genre, the register, then you go into genre. Okay, so this is what I base my research upon. Okay, I look at the fluidity of lexical grammar between, and then goes into discourse semantic that make meaning based on the register and genre. So my aim was looking at lexical grammar towards achieving the genre purpose. So that's why I don't talk much about these two in my research. Yes, I'm looking at both ends here. That's why what this is Dr. Fiza mentioned just now. Okay, this is what you were talking about, register and genre. So you can choose if you want to just stick to register, right? And then that genre will like deviate from the thing. So they call it the configuration of register and genre. You know, in SFL, a lot of terms there. Okay, all right. Okay, now so then I look at the schematic structure. Okay, actually schematic structure, if you look at Swale call it moves. In SFL, they call it schematic structure. Okay, stages that you have in the discourse. Okay, so I look at the stages in the argumentative essay. So I look at all the stages, the argumentative essay to ensure that the genre of academic argumentative essay is what I call accomplished. And then you know that different stages would have some delicate stages. So in order for like a genre to function successfully, so all the stages should work together, contribute together to the overall making of the genre. Okay, I think those who are using Swale, we call it move. Okay, now the schematic structure is actually kind of developed or elaborated from GSP, which was what I call introduced by Hassan, Halliday's wife, Ruqayyah Hassan. Okay, she called it a generic structure potential, GSP, okay, based on a counter exchange. So there will be like what I call this is like when you have the parentheses, the brackets, the parentheses here, this is what we call compulsory. Within this must have the compulsory move. Okay, this curly bracket here is optional. Okay, and then the parentheses here. Okay, this is what I call something that compulsory. Okay, so this is how generic structure what we call developed based on GFP. So whenever anybody wanted to talk about structure, generic structure, or schematic, we always have to start with the historic of this. So we got to talk about Hassan, and then Bentola also developed on Hassan, and then Martin developed on Hassan. So we have to look into all this historical development of schematic structure. Yeah. So then I, based on this four argument genre in the student academic writing by Coffin, because Coffin actually elaborated this from Martin. Martin's Write It Right project in 1986 for disadvantaged schools in Sydney. Okay, so there are four kind of common genres in for argument. We got hortatory exposition, analytical exposition. Okay, and then these are the stages, the staging or the schematic structure. Okay, thesis followed by recommendation. This is optional. Argument and evidence must be there. Counter argument evidence is optional. The enforcement of the thesis is optional. Recommendation is compulsory. If you look at analytical exposition, and then you just put forward your point of view of argument, you have your thesis there. then you develop your arguments and evidence, and then you enforce your thesis. So this one is optional. Now, the other two job types, okay, you got the hortatory discussion and analytical discussion. Now, this is actually one-sided argument, okay? And this is discussion actually, two-sided argument, where you argue the case, you give both like advantages and disadvantages. Okay, what marks the difference between hortatory and analytical is that in hortatory, you don't put your stand, okay? But in analytical, after you have done the discussion, then you would put forward your stand. Okay, this is actually helps a lot with me for my students to prepare them for wet writing. In fact, those taking IELTS as well, yeah, and TOEFL, because sometimes the question can be one-sided argument, okay, and then sometimes it can be discussion. So in a discussion, you can tell the student you can be a hortatory discussion or analytical discussion. Okay. So from there, I look at the based on Lee 2006. Okay, she did on interpersonal, but she has this uh, second step of organization, and then she introduced a bit of here. So I based my analysis of the stages on this schematic structure of Right 96 by Martin and friends and Lee. Okay, we can see there are like the first step of the analysis will be looking at the general, what I call the main one. So this will be the introduction, identification, and thesis. Then you got series of argument. Depends on you how many argument you want the students to write. But basically, you want them to write 3. And then this is recommendation and reinforcement that can come into the conclusion, the concluding paragraph. Now, for each development, for example, body paragraph, they must have a point and elaboration. So the point here is actually the claim, the topic sentence. Okay, and then point here, topic sentence. These are all the supporting details. So what type of supporting details? Okay, evidence or example, evaluation, suggestion. Okay, so when you have all these like delicate level, it helps to support the claim. Then the whole claim will become like a strong argument to support your essay, your genre that you're writing. This is what Martin said. Of all these stages, they work together to contribute to the success of the whole genre. Okay, so I check. Okay, I analyze that how good student, how like high graded essay student they wrote, for example, like that, and how the weak one. So normally the good one, they would have a lot of giving example. They explain why and they evaluate, and then at the end they will give suggestion what can be done. The weak one, they just tend to kind of giving description. They just describe. Okay, this is because of this, this. So the description is actually more to the report writing part. They fail to argue, and then they use they lack mood or modality in their writing. That is to do with interpersonal actually. And then they also have problem with textual in terms of given and new information, and the thematic progression also kind of very weak. They fail to kind of refer to the theme that they write in the beginning of their paragraph. And then the cohesion also, like they weak the cohesion because there's no smooth or there's no flow of argument. Yeah. Now this is example that I do. Okay. So the claim point, argument point. Okay. This is the topic. This is topic sentence. Okay. Other than that, organizations should be encouraged because there's an increasing need throughout the world for organ transplant. So elaboration, why I put evidence, because the student quote, okay, from other source. So the moment there's a quote of other source, so we call this evidence. Okay. Now, warning, why? Okay, even though there's a evidence here, but this is the warning because there is like, with the increase, insufficient could lead to another problem. There's a mood here, could, right? So this like a, based on the evidence, this is the warning what will happen. Then the student evaluate the situation. Okay, if there's an adequate supply, many lives can be saved. So it's a kind of the student evaluated this evidence and this warning so that the problems in the evidence and the problems in the warning will not occur. And then the student gave like a suggestion here rather than letting the organ to go with, because it's indicated by the phrase rather than. It is more appropriate and thoughtful to donate the organ. So the schematic analysis of this paragraph is that the claim, okay, the argument point, there's a claim there, which is argumentative in the sense that there's a mood, should, okay, there's a mood there, modality. Now, the elaboration is staged by evidence, staged by warning, staged by evaluation, and staged by suggestion. Okay, right? So, what does schematic analysis reveal? So when you look at argumentative genre, so normally you have a lot of evidence, a lot of evaluation, a lot of warning, suggestion, and all. So that will mark the successful stage of argumentative essay. And nowadays, we got this hybrid structure, hybrid discourse. Maybe by looking at the schematic, it helps us to help our student, to write hybrid discourse, piece of discourse. And then we also look at with the stage, sometimes we have to look at how people argue orally and how people argue in written form. And sometimes the student bring the oral argument into the writing. Okay. Now, so my research, my analysis does not end there. So what I did was I mapped the logico-semantic relation with the schematic structure. This is what I did. Okay. So I look at the argument just now. Other than that, and then the relationship is hypothetic. So the student gives the reason. Okay. The first evidence is simplex. So when it is simplex, simple, when it's only one clause, we don't analyze that. Okay. The evidence is gave. The second evidence is A, purpose one. Okay, is a hypothetic, right? And then the warning, he gave a simplex. And then the evaluation, then he got three clauses there. If there's an adequate, many lives can be saved. Okay, there is a cause condition positive, because if here is positive, you save enough organ, you can save life. So that is a positive relation, right? And then once the life can save, he gives additional information that is extension, and problems such as human trafficking can be prevented. So why I underline the verb? Because it's finite. That's why I put here finite. Okay. Then in the suggestion, oops, sorry. Okay. Rather than letting the organ go on waste, okay, this student using abstention, which is varying, giving another alternative. It is more appropriate and thoughtful to donate the organ. Now, this is, some of you might say, why this is not like a purposive clause? Because this is actually a simplex embedded in the thoughtful, because it is more appropriate, thoughtful, projected to donate the organ, projected. So this is a projected embedded clause. So we cannot simply say that this is another clause. Now, if you look at the texts here, you see, because this is argumentative, a lot of enhancement. 1, 2, 3, right? So in a way, it signals this is argumentative. Now, if you look at the student maturity of writing, he has a mix of two clausal sentence here, a simplex, two clausal, a simplex, three clausal, and a two clausal. So it's a quite kind of what we call a balanced kind of writing, instead of having a multi-clausal sentence or even having a simplex throughout. Because a simplex throughout make it the reading will be like kind of dull sometimes. So the variation might show how kind of like a particular discourse is patterned throughout the variation of texts, throughout the variation of the logico-semantic relation. So this is what I did for my PhD. Actually, first I look at the schematic structure, I analyze all those things, and then I separated those sentences into clauses, and then I look at their textus interdependency, and I look at their logico-semantic relation. So it's like first analysis will be the schematic, label them as elaboration, evidence, something like that, and then look at their textus interdependency, here one or two, and then look at their logico-semantic relationship. And the third one, I map both to see is there any pattern. Okay, to see will this reveal any pattern for high graded essay, low graded essay, and middle graded essay, and what makes a high middle graded essay could not be evaluated as a low high graded essay, and normally because of this logical semantic relation. Okay, they fail to have a number of adequate. There's no name of like what I call number of adequate, but there's a sense of adequateness in the logical semantic deployment in any particular written work. Yeah.
How do you measure whether it's adequate or not?
I use the average number. So you can see like those good ones, they have a lot of enhancement. Those the weak one, they use a lot of extension. They just simply, so that is, I just kind of theorize it, probability. I don't say it like what I call literally, we can might provide it, just theorize it for the probability of it. Based on the occurrences calculation, and then that is how we kind of what I call probable it as a successful and non-successful essay. Okay, now, so what does my mapping, okay, analysis reveal? Okay, so the deployment of an appropriate range of logical semantic features, okay, contributes to achieving or failing or fully achieve a suitable schematic structure for any text genre of analysis. Now, this is Dr. Fiza, I told you just now. The probable trends can be observed by mapping the broad staging of the textual with the logical. So that's why you can see which is successful, which is not successful based on the quantity. So as I said, the quantity helps for the quality in SFL sometimes, because as I said, there's a choice. So when we teach our students, we can tell them, okay, when you want to write this, you need these stages. So those stages are the quality. A number of stages, how many? Those are the quantity. So the quantity helps with the quality in the writing. Okay. Right. So the research implication, I indicate that the lexical grammar resources identified in my study as linguistic correlates of quality. So we can be used, okay, that's when the number that I have got, the occurrence that I've got, correlate with the quality, which I can use for the intelligible concept of flow of argument. So how to flow your argument, you give them the stages just now. Okay, so how many, this is the stages that you need. This is the number of clauses you need to write. This is the number of logical semantic relation. Maybe you can help, you can use in your writing. And then the hierarchical ordering of the logical order. That just now we saw the student put evidence, and then warning, and then evaluate, and then he give suggestion. So the normal, I mean, what I found in my studies, okay, they start with evidence, they evaluate the evidence, and then they give suggestion. So the minimum 3 will be good. So the evidence plays important role. Okay, and then they evaluate based on the evidence, then they make suggestion. All right. The weak one, we have a lot of reporting. There is a number of things, but they fail to kind of evaluate that the number in order to come up with suggestion. Okay, I think a lot of us, we tend to report instead of giving evaluate to that point, even at our stage too, because we're scared of making what I call judgment. Yeah. All right. So for those who are interested in SFL, okay, you need these 3 variables. Okay, I have all those 3 so all with me, because this one is actually where Halliday started all about SFL. Okay, then he developed certain concept here, and this is more detailed. Then this is how he put it into the present modern world with the helped by Mathiesen. All right. Now, to have any analysis, these two books will be good. Okay, analysis of cross complexes, interpersonal. Okay, you need to have these two. Okay, again, very detailed. Okay, and then using functional grammar is like a workbook telling you how to go about doing things. Right. Now, when you relate with genre, you need multi. This is the thing. Okay, working with discourse. Okay, deploying functional grammar and genre relation. So a person who really into SFL, at least you must have these 8 books with you, so that you can turn and help you out. Yeah. Now, I did not deal with those other just now in detail. But when we talk about interpersonal metafunction, okay, I mentioned just now. Okay, interpersonal metafunction is how you interact the language, the type of interaction, formal, informal. Okay, the kind of community you mean. Is it like you give information, you ask for information, reporting, whatever, and then how you take your position in your message. So the analysis you can do is that the finite, the mood, or exchange of information, speaker, listener, modality, you look at the mood. And now a lot of people like to do appraisal. Appraisal is like hedging, like meta discursive in Highland, they use a lot of hedging. So in SFL, they use appraisal. And appraisal is kind of developed by Martin. Okay, Halliday introduced appraisal not so much into because Halliday just introduced the what I call those the tenets of SFL, and then Martin developed more on appraisal mode modality. Chris Mathiesen more onto register, register. That's why you call the RST, register structure theory. Okay, when you do RST, then you come across with Mathiesen a lot and Sandra Thompson. Now, anybody into textual metafunction? Okay, we talk about how speakers or how writers organize their message. So you look into theme and rhyme, which is a thematic progression I mentioned just now, because sometimes our students fail to keep to the same theme in their writing. They tend to give a lot of new themes, so that's why they fail to relate to the previous argument. And then we have the given and new information, and then we talk about cohesion. Okay, so this is other areas of SFL to research. Okay, register, genre per se, grammatical metaphor, nominalization, abstraction, okay, multimodality. So multimodality, you can look into now, like one good person you can look into her work is Helen Keppel in UNSW. She was my co-supervisor. Then after that, she left for UNSW. She did a PhD under Martin. She and Monica Banneret. Okay, they both write a lot on multimodality and SFL. Louis Ravalli as well. Okay, and then they look into paralanguage, Sue Hood, Sue Hood, and then number those in Australia. Okay, all right. Okay, just a bit to try. Dr. Fiza said maybe a bit of okay. This is let's try. Just we look into the trend.
This is the part the whole class will suddenly have this sick feeling in the tummy when the lecturer tells us to do an exercise. Are we paying attention?
Okay, this is the sensitivity just analysis. Remember the basic thing just now, the subject verb object, right? Okay, you just need to group. Is it like actor, behavior, sayer, whatever? Yeah. Yeah.
This is unexpected, Effendi. Just the surface level, right?
Yep. Just the okay. I'll be like, oops.
Okay.
Okay, this is the answer, eh? All right. So, I travel actor is a travel is a material. Australia is circumstance, which is location. This is the best part as a tourist. So if you look at traditional grammar, how are you going to label? So in SFL, so label is as a circumstance, which is the function is as a role. Okay, right. Like he gave me a case. The same easy actor, material, recipient, and the goal. Next one, I stayed up all night. So I is the actor, process is a material, stayed up material, and all night is the circumstance, which is the extent. To show that, you know, the, the, the time, that's what they call extent, that all night, yep. Now, that bookcase looks very heavy. So I know that when us, they come to look, then we say this is non-action verb. We call it a linking verb, right? And then this is the subject, and then this is adjective, complemented. So in SFL, that bookcase is a carrier because why is it a carrier? It carries the attribute of very heavy. That's why we call it a carrier. Okay, I haven't touched on the token yet, and okay, token not yet, yeah? Okay. And then the process here, relational attributive, because it gives the attribute to the bookcase. So the bookcase carries the attribute of very heavy. And the process here is relational, is a big kind of, because it gives attribute. Now, the last one, Marcus Antonius praised Julius Caesar. Marcus, because it's a sayer. We tend to say subject. This is the verb he did. And then this is the object, right? But in SFL, it is sayer because it's praised orally. So the verb is verbal. Okay. To whom he said that thing, his target is Julius Caesar. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Selamat Hari Raya, everybody. Okay, I can stop sharing now, right, Dr. Fiza?
Yeah, just leave it there.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr.
No
Fandi,
problem.
for the slow and steady layman explanation of one part of the SFL. Thank you very much. I requested Dr. Fandi to do that for me, especially because I need a refresher. Of course, when you mentioned just now, you only did ideational, right?
Yep, yep.
The interpersonal textual, no, right?
No.
Interpersonal textual, yeah, yeah. So I've got a few questions
Okay.
if you don't mind. This is especially good for on the side of the students, as you said,
Yep, yep,
you've analyzed the students' work and everything,
yep.
and then you know more what they are capable or not capable of doing. So how do you relate that to your teaching of essays? Because we have a lot of student essays, right? We've got FYPs, academic essays, throughout the 3 years. So how do you relate this to the students' work every time when you're teaching?
Okay. That's what I said. They call it the argumentative essay is a very short essay, right? So that's what I call a micro genre. Now, if you talk about FYP, they call it embedded genre. So when it comes to embedded genre, there will be different because in the embedded genre, I think the FYP is like a report at the same time there's like a argumentative. So there is like a research, okay, actually a thesis by Susan. She did in University of Sydney. She looked into the embedded genre. Okay, so I have read the thesis. So the same thing. So what she did was she analyzed a long report about 2000 a long report, okay, for one particular subject, and then she found that the final year that report is actually kind of embedded genre of report and then argumentative argument as well as expository. So then they have that the schematic analysis, the schematic structure tends to intertwine between one another. Okay, so you based on that, she come up with certain moves. So for the student to be successful in their long report, these are the particular moves that they must have. So they come up with like a what we call a model. So in SFL, we call it, they call it scaffolding. Okay, scaffolding. So you scaffolding is what we
Mm.
call, you give them the model. Okay, this is what an essay should be, right? And then they piece out the model. Okay, and then they put back the model together. That is a scaffolding. So the same thing when it comes to final year say, report. Say that you have 5 chapters: introduction, literature review, methodology, findings, and then discussion, right? So that is like actually a kind of embedded genre. So the introduction basically will be more into reporting, elaborating,
Mhm,
okay?
mhm,
But when it comes to literature review, there's some argument kind of genre coming in. At the same time, it is a reporting. So then it's an embedded genre. So how do you
mhm,
begin with that? First reporting, and then arguing, and then reporting, okay? And then arguing, right?
right.
And then the methodological will be simple, like a more to reporting, but and yet there will be some kind of argument genre weaving in because you need to justify why such methodology. And then you go into the discussion. Discussion is like reporting, and yet I think towards the end, you're making some exposition of it. You give these reasons to it. Okay, then the last the chapter, the conclusion, basically like reporting and justifying why the report, okay, the result of the report. So this is what we call embedded genre, and this is like more to
Mhm,
macro genre.
mhm,
Okay, so we called it construct and then deconstruct in SFL. You scaffold them, you give them a model, so they
mhm,
construct something. Then after that, you ask them to deconstruct that model, then they
mhm,
come back to the model. Now,
mhm,
many opposition of SFL said that would not kind of give way to students to be creative, to kind
mhm,
of
yeah, yeah,
expand.
because it's kind
Um,
of fixed, yeah.
yeah, but
Mm,
I do believe that actually they can be creative within that stage, you know, because sometimes, yes, you want them to be creative, but when they give you the wrong report format, you know,
mm,
you're going to be very angry. So how are you to confine them between that within report? So once you tell them that within this particular kind of discourse, you need a number of different embedded genre, then I think that will be okay. That helps them. That helps them to really like kind of expand their creativity in writing. You know, they come up with like no, I think there's stages just now. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, at least it gives them some framework to work
Yep,
on
yep, yep. Mm.
as a start.
Yep,
Yeah, the theoretical framework. So this is how
yep,
it should be,
yep,
and then you can expand.
yes, yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is very
Mm.
good for me, poor me teaching academic writing for first year students actually at the moment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, though we don't go into the details, right? We don't go into the
Ah,
those B and calculations and all that.
uh,
So on your side, you're
mm,
able to look at those calculations
mm,
research wise,
mm.
so that you know what your students are doing currently.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
Without that, you probably wouldn't see it. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yes, yep.
Would that be different from just doing a simple linguistic feature analysis or error analysis? Like in genre analysis, there's that micro and macro level. So macro is just like what Martin mentioned about the schematic
Yep.
structure,
Mm.
and the micro level is the analysis of the linguistic features. Would that be similar to the breakdown in SFL? Except that
Ex
we don't have those B
beta,
thing.
alpha, beta.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Because that's why I said that alpha beta actually helps to complement that macro and micro.
Ah,
Then you see the construction. Now, because when you teach essay, you don't want the student to be choppy. Do you want them to write like a thesis statement like, uh, we need to donate organ because organ donation can save life, comma, organ donation will make people need to look. You just say, oh, these are too many verbs there, right? So
okay.
why not you make it like a noun phrase? Okay, organ donation is important because uh, we need to save life. We need to do this. No, you use all the to, or you use the ing, or you use the nominalization. So it helps actually so that they will not exceed the word particularly. this is true especially when they write a summary of something. So they learn the nominalization, they learn the grammatical metaphor, they learn the abstraction, which I did not touch in detail, but actually I propose because that is actually what the high graded essay student did. Most of them, their thesis statement, their preview, it was a simplex, just one
Mm.
clause. But the weak student, it is actually like a multi-clausal preview, multi-clausal thesis statement. They got 4 clauses in their thesis, which make the sentences sentence longer, long-winded, and then sometimes choppy. Then there is where they make many grammatical mistakes.
Mhm,
Mm,
mhm.
yeah.
So, okay. I make way for one question from the audience. Anybody before we call it a wrap? Anybody would like to ask? Dr. K, would you like to ask anything? Dr. Kyril? Okay. All right. If there are no questions, thank you once again, Dr. Afandi, for loaning us your Sunday to give this short guest lecture for our audience today. It was really, yeah, as Dr. Hadina mentioned, refreshing and yes, brings back, yeah, I don't know, good horrific memories. That doesn't matter, but yeah, it's always good to have something like this because it's in there. For those of you who are doing discourse analysis, research, these would be the frameworks that you use, at least for some background of your research, either doing genre or discourse analysis, genre analysis or register analysis. This would be a good background. Yeah, so Dr. Fandi, yes, Selamat Hari Raya
Uh,
to you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Dr. Fiza for inviting me.
Thank you
Okay.
too to all the audience we have today. So till we meet again in REPS research publication sharings by Kuliah of Languages and Management. I am Pago. I'm Dr. Fiza, your moderator. I'm signing off. Thank you, everybody. Dr. Cecilia, for attendance, for external people, I think you have to register first, right at the top of the screen. There's the word register in the I attend. Sorry for the tardiness, but I've got your attendance. Don't worry, Dr. Cecilia. Okay, Dr. Afandi and
Thanks,
everyone.
Dr. Fiza. Okay.
Assalamualaikum and have a
Waalaikumsalam
good week
warahmatullah.
ahead. Bye.
Bye.